then she said, you know what? My children were rocks. I said, that didn't come from a mother, because a mother never says her children who are rocks. They're always the best, right? Anyhow, she then, tells me how, taking them to a certain school, their lives changed. Now I was all ears, right? Yeah, all ears, very attentive. And I said, where did you take them? And she said, I took them to a school and they use the accelerated Christian education. Oh my God, I'd had it before. Here it is again, right next to me. So we got chatting, and it's a long way from Moshi to Dar es Salaam, but we talked all the way. And she was not taking no for an answer. She invited me to her house, but I told her, I'm busy the whole week because I was training from 8 to 8 p.m., So I told her the whole week, no. My only sort of free day is Sunday. This was like Sunday. So she did come and pick me up from where I was, from my host's house. She actually found out where they lived, got their telephone number.
Determination.
Talk about God. When there's a certain flow, you just have to adapt and flow, right? So I said, this woman, she's actually my answer for God confirming what I should do. So I went to her house and we got chit-chatting, and then she decided she was going to the kitchen to fix something for me. Okay? She took her time. But guess who came to entertain me? The children. The ones who were rocks. 3 musketeers, right? 11-year-old, 9-year-old, and a 6-year-old. Now the 11-year-old, so I said, so tell me about your school, And it's like their eyes just lit up, Now, when children are excited, they are just excited, right? So the 11-year-old, obviously the very vocal one, starts telling me the story. And he says, we were bad boys. The little one, 6-year-old, will say, oh, it was so much fun, But I was so attentive, and I think because I was all ears, they just gave it all. So they started sharing their story and how they changed, And so I said, what changed you? He said, you can't read the word of God and not change.
Come on.
And I'm like, whoa, what happened here? The children who are rocks have turned into evangelists, So they started just, sharing how the Bible had changed their lives. How when they first got to the school, they had many demerits. So of course I didn't know what demerits were, and I'm asking, what are demerits? They explained in their own way. And if you have many demerits, you'll have a detention. I said, okay, all right, they told me so much. But the thing that I picked on was, if an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old and a 6-year-old can evangelize, that may not have been their word, their way of looking at it, but them just sharing about the changes in their lives was speaking to me as an adult. There was already an aroma flowing from them to me. I just said, I want this curriculum. Okay? I'm not like you, where they explained everything. I know, right? Yeah. All I picked was, if an 11-year-old, 9-year-old, and a 6-year-old can evangelize, I'll take it. And they knew exactly the source of their transformation.
Yeah.
They knew it. They even shared scriptures with me.
Well,
This is the curriculum.
yeah.
I didn't care. I didn't even know whether they will go to university or not. But for me, it answered prayer, because for me, a transformed life,
It's good.
be able to do exploits in life, whatever the case. Okay? And so, my journey ended at that point of looking for a curriculum. So when the mother came round, she came with her own testimony and said, by the way, these children made us start going to church. Obviously, when they took the children to that school, they were not even believers. Now the children started taking them to church. And she said, we are well on our way. We are actually believing this God. Now, children evangelized, right? Now, parents are getting saved. I was sold. And so then I said, oh my God, I still have a hassle. Where will I get this in Nairobi? And she said, oh, you want a contact in Nairobi? I have one.
Come on.
I was like, oh God, how faithful can you be, you know?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I sat back that day and I said, okay, I give up for you, God, you know, because of the way you handle things and the way you bring answers. And so, long story short, Monday I was on my bus back to Nairobi. Tuesday morning, I called a gentleman called Mr. Mohol, and he's trying to fix an appointment for me for later in the week, and I'm like, no.
Yeah.
Me too, I was now not taking no for an answer. So the following day, I was at the school with my kids.
Come on.
Remember, they were already at another school, paid for.
Wow.
Yeah, because in Nairobi, schools begin at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
This was beginning of the year. They were paid for in another school, a private school at that. You know.
Wow.
So took them. As soon as they got there, they were doing diagnostic tests. My daughter finished earlier because really she didn't need to do much. They just assessed her and said, let her go to ABC. And the other one, yeah, he needed another day to complete his diagnostic tests. And when I went to pick them, both kids said, this is our school. Yeah, they were not going back. Allow me to laugh. Oh my God. Then here is Mr. Mohol telling me, I don't have a place for two. I only have a place for one. And I told him, that really doesn't work.
Yeah.
Right? You have to have a place for two. And you've heard the children, they said they're not going.
Here.
So the following day, I come back with Lagoon, he's the older one who needed to finish his diagnostic tests. And, you know, of course, Lara says, I'm coming along to my school, right? So I take them to the school. She joins the ABC class anyway, whatever, you know. And they complete, then at the end of the day, says, okay, we've created a space for a second life. And I was like, thank you, Lord. Now I had a problem. I had paid fees already. So I didn't have money to pay in a second school. And I was not going back. So that's a challenge, right?
Yeah.
And new parents, they don't usually give you, you need to come on credit, right? But I prayed to God. I said, honestly, God, we are not going back there because I believe this is the answer. So either the children will sit at home for Easter or they actually come to the school. Then I got an idea. I said, I'm just going to be honest. Not that I'm asking you to do the same, okay? But at the time of my desperation, that's what I did. And I remember the Lord even giving me options. So I said, if I can hear God saying, tell him, pay this month, pay this date, pay this date, and we just go with that. What's hard? You can say no, you know? But I was believing God that he would say yes. So I got to him and I said, by the way, I had paid fees already. Of course, I can't retrieve it.
Yeah.
And the children have said they are not going back there. So they are actually staying here. But I don't have money. But this is my proposal. This month I can pay this amount, a third on this date, and then on the next month I can pay 3 installments for this term. He said, okay, let me think about it. And he came back to me and said, I don't know. But I think it's God who has just convicted me to allow you to come.
Wow.
And I remember tears just rolling. And let me tell you, God is faithful. Exactly on those dates I gave, the money was paid. Exactly on those dates. And after that, I never had a problem with paying the fees. So all their fees was paid usually at the beginning of the term. For all the rest of the the time they were in school. And it's been an amazing journey. For me, there was no way a child would be at school and I am not part of that school. I was one of those parents that volunteered every week. I was at school. I was almost like a supervisor, whatever there. And but it was a joy. And God orchestrated things, let many things happen for me just to feel like He cared for us, and that was the place that we needed to be. And I'll give you 2 examples. One was really about how the children would get to school, because that place was very far from where we lived. And I was trying to work that out and say, God, how am I going to do this after saying the children are going there? How am I going to overcome taking them to school and picking them up? This place is far. Really far. For those who know Nairobi, we were living in Lavington, and the school was in Garden Estate. That's far. So it would mean that would be the only job I'm doing every day with the Nairobi Jam and all. But God made it the week we began school. That same week, they started a school bus system. Now, for me, that's not an answer, I don't know what. That week, all I needed to do was take them to town at a certain spot, then they will be taken to school, but they will be dropped back home. So that sorted that issue. I was like, yes, God, honestly, you're doing you. Then the second thing was, a friend of mine moved into the area.
Wow.
Then she decided to take her nephew to the same school. One day she gives me a call and says, please come to my house. It was a walking distance, so I went. And she said, can we carpool? You drop them off one week, and I drop them off the other week. And that happened for us for the whole time we were there. And I just look at so many miracles that God did for us. Even as He allowed our children, my children, to be discipled through the ACE curriculum. Now they're adults, they completed their university. And it's been an amazing journey of just seeing God work. Okay? So for me, I didn't need, okay, that was me. I did not need to see the whole way through. I needed just the conviction. And when God brought me the conviction, showed me the way, I said I'll stick to that way. Not everybody around us understood what ACU was all about. We had many questions. We had people thinking we're throwing away our children's future, and they will amount to nothing. You know all those things. Maybe you don't. Because in our time, it was such a thing. And today, looking back and seeing how God journeyed with us all the way to this day, we just give Him all the glory and honor. So that's what this curriculum is about. Discipling the children. Okay? And that's where my focus will be today. I know we may have sat here for too long, but I'm not going to go too much into the details of this curriculum, but give you enough to stir you up, okay? To read more, to find out more, and to allow God to take you a step at a time. In life, we are just laying tracks, you know? And that's what my theme has been since the beginning of the year. We are laying tracks. Tracks, even for us to run on, but tracks more so for those who come after us to run on. Okay? And there's no better track than to, you know, lay for children using a biblical foundation. And for me, that is the plus about the ACE curriculum, because it is biblically founded. The whole thing is in their curriculum, you know. They're reading the stories, isn't it? They're memorizing scripture, you know. And this scripture, that means that it is hidden in their hearts, isn't it? Yes, and that's what changes them. And I've seen my own children and several other children that I've been working with quote a scripture at the time when they needed it. And Christy is here, she will testify of some of these things. Yeah? And they're able to use those scriptures at any one time. This week, my daughter has been doing exams, and the exams they're doing this time is the open book, right? Of course, it's tough. It's open book, right? Open books, right? Because there are so many content and within a certain time. And the portal opens for them at 9 a.m. and closes at 9 p.m. And I just see how, I mean, all she did was inform me. I have exams this week and I will be antisocial, period. Okay? She gets up, she just says, today it's this, tomorrow it's this, yesterday was foreign policy, the other day was public administration, she's doing international relations. Okay? And the first one was financial accounting, you know, all that, you know, and all she tells you is, this is what I'm doing today. And she gets on with her business, sets her goals, this is my target, using those same things that, you know, they learn in their day-to-day, you know, working through the curriculum. Set goals, so she would set every day, you know, this is the plan, this is the exam, these are the questions, I target to finish this by this time, this by this time, this by this time, you know? I'm thinking, wow. This, because they were, you know, they learned that on a daily basis. They worked it through on a daily basis. And usually she would keep to her target. Sometimes she'd finish before the time she expected. Yeah? But there was a day she was just tired. I said, I'm tired, I've drunk water, I've opened all the windows. And then at that point she said, you know what, let me just pray. So she took off sometimes, sat outside on the balcony and first prayed. Then she went back in, you know, and renewed energy, you know, back to that. But I saw every little bit of what they went through in the curriculum. So it's biblically based, it is individualized, okay, and therefore you can actually, you know, follow the progress of someone. Therefore you can be able to see where the gaps are. You know, and like when you're teaching children maths, you know, all you're saying is, oh, you need to get this much, but you don't see where the gaps are. But here you're able to monitor every gap, you know, and be able to fill it in and support them at that particular point, okay? And in this thing, obviously, mastery is one of our key foundational concepts until they have mastered. So the concept is brought back in different ways until a child masters it, okay? So they have little, you know, exercises here and there, they're reading exercises, they do checkups just to make sure that they have learned the material up to that point. And it's little bits, you know, so that you don't have to now, you know, go backwards when there has been so much work covered. But you go back when there is just enough, isn't it? And that is not stressful, because if I'm just going back to look at this material again, it's not too much, it's not stressful. And doing that on and on until they go through what they call self-tests, and then they go through the actual test. By the time they get there, there has been mastery. our emphasis is mastery and not time. Okay? I've had many people come and say, no, by this time you should have finished this, by this time you should have finished this, by age this, but really, even if I finish at 18, but there has been no mastery in my life, then what is the point? So I think the best thing is allow the children to work at their pace. Of course, not allowing for laziness, okay? Because the curriculum emphasizes excellence, hard work. Those are, yes, those are the character traits of Jesus that we work through, okay? So all those little snippets of the curriculum are so key, and I could go on about so many others, that, are the underlying things or foundational concepts of this curriculum. And the foundational thing starts from the very little ones, okay? 4 years, okay? Until they get to the 5 years, till they get to the 6 years, they master reading, do you know? Yeah, and once they master reading, they have no problems at all. At all, by the way, okay? And then they go on, to different levels, and I could walk you through the whole sequence, okay? Up to grade 6, 7 levels, then in grade 8, they begin what we call this, working towards the certificates, Grade 9, they do what we call a general certificate, which may be at the level of the, S4, They go to grade 10, 11, and 12, which may be the equivalent of our S6 levels, okay? And they're able to work through, and sometimes people ask us, then how do we know which, what is their bent? But as you go along, you're able to identify. Remember, it is individualized. So there's more attention, to what, what this child's bent is. Because you're praying through it anyway. But even as they work through, you're able to tell. It's so easy. You can see, this child's strength is in this area. This one is in this area. And then it allows them at the grade 9 levels to also expand out and do what we call electives, and they pick on subjects, and you can see the kind of subjects they will pick, even as you guide them. And you say, it actually confirms what you are thinking. This is the area they like, okay? Some of them will pick speech, some of them will pick music, some of them will pick health and nutrition, others will pick, name it, home and consumer science, others will pick mechanics, whatever it is, But you can literally see the child walk through on a certain track. And the beautiful thing is, as a supervisor in a school or as a parent, you are part of their journey, and you are one of those laying tracks for them to walk. Okay? To their breakthrough and to their destiny as well. Okay? Then eventually they'll go to the universities or in any tertiary institutions of their choice. Okay? And the beautiful thing here in Uganda is that our curriculum has been approved by the NCDC, which is the Center for the Development of Curriculum in Uganda. So that has been approved. UNEP has also approved, especially the equation of our certificates. So our children are able to go to the local universities, right? Yes, we have several of them, some of them doing one doing dentistry. We have had 2 doing medicine, we had a few doing engineering, we have a few doing law, and there are more that have come out now, all right? And some of them choose to go abroad. Of course, the first few went abroad because we hadn't yet streamlined the processes locally, yeah? But there are those who now go by choice. And recently I was so blessed. There's a family where there were 3 children that had completed. And I met the father, and he was so overjoyed because all 3 got scholarships abroad. But 2 of them got full scholarship based on the ACE, merit of the ACE curriculum, and one of them got half. But I believe it's because of the particular the other day another one came and said she also got a scholarship, and she also got full scholarship for pharmacy. So it's been a joy just watching things unfold, year after year. And of course, the bulk of the children are coming now. So I believe there will be more graduates and more people going into the universities. There has been such an overwhelming, interest and demand for the AC curriculum in this season. But I don't think it's just the AC curriculum. I believe it is born on a march, His truth is marching forward, and it is like a season of revival, right? Yeah. Where people will find themselves just gravitating towards Christianity. And ACs is just one of those tools that God is going to use. So we've seen such an influx. In the last year, I think up to now we have about 4,000 learners, which for us is incredible. Because if 17 years ago when our first school was starting here, there were only 22 children, in the school. But 17 years later, there are 4,000 and going, okay? We started with one school 17 years ago. Today, we are over 40 schools. And spread out, not just in Kampala, but Arua, Kabale, Bale, and it is spreading out right now. But it's because of the demand in the season. Okay? So, my words to you, even as I close right now, is, work from a place of conviction. Because when you have that, even in the tough times, I remember when the tough times came in 2020, it was easy to say, this is what you gave us, God. How do we adapt? Isn't it? Yeah. And amazingly, we already had workbooks. So it was so easy to translate that to a home. It was already there. And that's the first time I said, my God, no wonder it is school of tomorrow. Yeah. Right? For me, it made so much sense. Okay? Yeah. So, adapt. If this is the move of God, adapt and flow. And along the way, you may not have all the answers, but allow that to be filled in on a daily, And I believe for most of you, by the time your children now get to the upper levels or the high school levels, there would have been so much ground covered. So far, there is a lot covered, but there will be much more. There will be more witnesses, that have run the same race. And you will be privileged to be one of those who had laid tracks for many others to come. Many others to come. So God bless you. Even as you look forward into this year, may you be a blessing to your children as you lay tracks, to the school as you lay tracks, and as you build relationships together, okay? And be a blessing to the community as well, even as we transform children, but especially as we, disciple just children. But not just children, I believe the world at large. Yeah. But we're doing it one child at a time. God bless you.
Thank you very much. Wow, I sound loud. Thank you very much. And maybe before I let you go, I'm wondering if there are any questions to her specifically. I personally have one. So I'm wondering if there's any question or anything that you would love to know. Please feel free to raise your hand and ask. Maybe I'll start. Okay.
Thank you so much. Now that the curriculum is understood and accepted here in Uganda, there are possibilities of having some of the ACE students sponsored by the government of this university.
I believe that is possible. Okay? As long as you submit in time. Right? Yeah. Because sometimes
usually, the way they compute for government sponsorship, they use the local SCE results. Yeah, so in that case, do they use their score groups?
No, there's a whole process, you know, we go through, and eventually the child receives a certificate from the International Christian Certificate of Education, ICC, okay? And what we do here is we take those certificates to UNEM for inclusion, okay? Now when they equate it, and therefore they're able to now use it locally to any of the local universities. Have I answered your question?
Any other
And
questions?
usually you apply for that and you pay per certificate. I think so far it's still 200,000, right? 250 now. We work a lot with Diana, Diana Mugerwa. Yes. Especially on that certification issue, she's a very key person, and she is part of your, you know, she's one of your parents here. She's a very key person. December she did not sleep because she was working through getting all our certificates through. Yes, so it's 250 now. Yes.
Any other question?
Yes.
Thank you very much for the information. I wanted to ask about, I think it's something called history. Ugandan history being included in our assessment. We've been hearing about it, that they are coming up with places that our children will not only learn the American history, or Uganda. I don't know how far that's going.
We've had to, you know, every country is given the mandate to work on their own history and geography and that whole lot, okay? Because internationally they cannot work through that content for us, okay? So as a country we are working through that, and we started with the lower levels. So work is going on, and it's on volunteer basis. So it cannot go at a pace that we want. All right? So there are groups of people that are literally working, you know, through it. Not only for the social studies, but even for some subjects like math, right? Because we were using cents and nickels and whatever. So those ones have also been changed. If you notice, we've made a few changes in that. So it is a work in progress. However, we have encouraged schools, and some of the schools have even gone ahead to get the MK publishers, okay? And use that just to supplement. They may not necessarily be in the pace, you know, those packets of accelerated Christian education style, okay? But you can still bring that content in, whether you're in a home school or even in a school itself. So we do not ignore that bit. It is being worked on. And usually when the team has work, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of work, right? And we go back and forth, send it back to South Africa, our head office, to the, you know, people who work on curriculum, you know. Then they send back questions, how this is not, is this correct, is this, you know. It's back and forth, reading so many books, but it is being worked on. We are not actually ignoring that.
Just to add on, we are among those schools that adapted the MK. Well, because we have up to grade 3, usually in grade 2 we always get outsource information, and we see that the children are also learning something Ugandan, because you realize I was told that one time I was called by a parent here, and the child was asking for snow. And I was yeah, so some of the things we learn on, yeah, say, teach me where is snow. So what we usually do is, because we are also learning, now we know how to bring out specific information and be able to relate it also back to our country. For example, we were learning about when we are learning about seasons, I teach the 4-year-olds. I always tell them that, you know, God blesses different countries with different seasons. So in some countries, like the USA, you know, they have these sort of seasons. They have springtime, summertime, they have winter. For us in Uganda, we do not have those seasons, but God gave us our special seasons. And so for us, we will not experience that, and I've not had any questions, at least up to that time, yes. And what we also always do is, I think, grade 3, I don't know about grade 4 that much, but I think grade 3 and below is not very hectic. There's not really like, usually the children will be done with their goals by either 1 or 2, or they will be done with their goals, their set goals for that by the time the term ends. So what we do is, for the holidays, so that we don't have them idle, we have been giving those children in grade 2, we give them like a book and just encourage the parent and MK of let them just learn and fill in questions, and you know, so that they fill in those gaps. And we've been seeing how they've learned about communities, LCs. They come and ask you, yeah. So also on the side of the parent, where you see a gap, you try to see how you can fill it in. Yeah, and maybe
just like this one here is the Max Uganda, okay, at our grade 1 levels. You know. So you'll find our coins in there. Like I said, it's a lot of work, you know. All the details, the 10 shillings, the 20 shillings, I mean, all that we have to input in there so that they understand it. So this one is only sold to Uganda. Right? Yes, and it's written on specifically Max Uganda 1010. Okay. There was also at SST, it was 1024. That is also that. And before one that, yeah, 1014 something. I can't remember which number it was. Okay. So we will keep working at it, and definitely there's evidence that work is going on.
I was just complimenting on what you had just shared, that it is really community work, and parents and teachers coming into taking on the education mountain because it's so vital for the nation. My husband happens to help with Bar International Christian Academy with social studies in Uganda, then also with the CPA, then also here we are trying to see how we can push our children to know all this.
Yeah, that's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah, and any of you, if you have anything that you feel you can bring value to the school, I believe they will not say no. I remember when I was doing that when I was a parent, they never say no. Anywhere, by the way.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, because we've been out of school for quite some time, there is a lot that we have not been able to do. But for our parents who have been with us since we, at least since 2018, you actually remember we had a program where every time we would meet for our class meetings, we would have a paper and parents would sign up to come and read stories to their children every Friday. So a parent would come with a specific book and then get time to lead the children in devotion, read them a story, tell them about their profession, maybe if a parent is an engineer, and just, you know, share with them. So we can always have those programs. I think at Vine at one point they had a program where, was it Vine? The particular parents would come in specific subjects where children were finding trouble, maybe, I even forgot math topics. Division.
Algebra.
Algebra. So parents would just come, and this particular parent, I think, would come and take them through, or a teacher, so that they also get that interactive part of, now we are out of pace work, we are going to listen to someone explain it for us, and then we will go back to that pace and try to make sense of it. Yes, so those ideas are welcome, very much welcome. Yes, maybe I would love to ask her to just briefly take us through what happens grade 0 up to 12. So they come to grade, just briefly, like 2 minutes.
In a way, I think I mentioned that. I did, right? Yeah, I think I did. I did tell, when they get to, even from grade 8, I did mention a few of those things as we go forward, right? Yes, even at what stage.
I was closing that bit.
Okay, yeah.
Those are things which people can keep, working through, as they go through the grades and all that, so that they're not focused too much on grades, and as they work through concepts, because remember, it is mastery. Okay? Of course, at a certain point, we get to and say, now we need, of course, some certification. But the truth is, if they keep mastering whatever, they're learning, the different concepts, by the time they get to a place where they are now being graded for certificates, they have no gaps. You understand? Yeah? And the thing is, they will have learned so much beyond even a certificate. And so focus more on their mastery as individual learners and support them.
Thank you very much. I think I'm also always amazed at the fact that this curriculum looks at an individual child, not children, but a child. So if a child is able to work through very quickly, it is well, and we appreciate. And if a child is able to go at their own pace, we allow them to go through, because like she has mentioned, it's about mastering what they are learning, not just going through so that at the end of the term they have exams that they're going to pass.
Maybe just one thing for clarity. Do we still have, a way of, making maybe the child or the parents know this child is now in this grade, okay? They're in this grade. They're in this grade, based on what we call the pace numbers, okay? So we would say a child is in maybe grade 4 when they hit 10:36, to 10:37 to 10:48, okay? Things like that. But those are easy things you'll see according to the pace numbers. Then you know this child is in this grade, okay? Yeah, or they're in grade 9 because they're now doing pace number 10:97 to 11:04. Okay, things like that. They show you a way of demarcating and say, okay, this child is now at this level, this child is now at this level. Okay? I'm not saying that is not there. It is there. But all I want people to understand is mastery is the important thing.
Yes, and maybe one more thing. Is it possible for us to have a list of SEE schools? We know a few, but if we can have those 40, especially the ones that are within Kampala, so that the parents can start, as they prepare for grade 3, start maybe visiting. We have some that are going out after this year. So it would be great if they visit and know about the schools, and yes, so I'll follow up on that. Yes, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Yes, so just before we do our last session, which is really going to be a bit short, I want to invite you for a cup of tea. So this next part is just going to be interactive. They call them working tea, meeting tea. Yes, so please start getting something to eat, some tea, as I welcome Christy. Christy Asimwe is one of the students who have gone through SEE. So I thought that it would also be great if you listened from her part. How was it? When did she join? What have been the benefits? I'll just sort of let her go through that. I believe she also has siblings who are going through. Some have started with it, so she can give us all those that information. But in the meantime, I'm going to lead in a word of prayer for our tea. Please feel free to have something to eat. Yes, let's pray. Loving Jesus, we thank you for today. We thank you for how far you have brought us so far. We thank you for that tea that you have provided for us, O God, and as we eat and drink, Lord, your word reminds us that whatever we do, whether in deed, in action, we should do it for your glory and unto you. So we ask you, Lord, to sanctify and purify the tea and the eats and everything we are going to have, that it will bring nourishment to our bodies, Lord. Bless the hands that have prepared. Bless each and every person that is going to partake of it. In Jesus' name we've prayed and believed. Amen. Yes, so Christy, you're welcome to take us through. Teacher Leon, I will just be inviting a few of you as you go and serve, so that once we are done, you're free to leave.
Thank you so much, Teacher Florence. Good morning. My name is Christy Asimwe, and I'm very excited to be here to share my experience. When Teacher Florence called me about 2 weeks ago, I was so excited because there's a lot that I have learned. There's a lot that I want to tell parents. There's a lot that I want to tell students so that we can embrace ACE more than we are doing now. I know that that there's a lot that we are doing to look at different ACE schools, to analyze the curriculum, and for the best of our children, of course, to place them in these schools that they may grow and become the people that God has created them to be. And so it's exciting for me to see you all here, and I'm excited to share what I have learned, and I believe that it will help each and every one of us. I pray that it will. Yes. Once again, I'm Christy Asimwe. I am currently in Uganda Christian University. I just finished my first semester, and before that, I was in Shekinah Christian International School. It's in Komamboka, very far away. And I was there from grade 8 to grade 12, which means I joined much later. Before I joined Shekinah, I was in Gayaza High School, and before that I was in City Parents School. So I was in Gayaza from S1 to S4. Now in my S4, of course, after exams, I was really excited to go back home for back. And I went home and I realized that my father was starting up this school, this ACE school. My sister, who follows me, Faith, was in Gayaza Junior School from P5 to P7. And in that time, she realized that she could draw, she could paint, she could do all these amazing things. And so when my father realized that, he said, you know what, I need to take this girl to a school that will enable her to develop that gift that God has given to her. And so he went to different schools. He went to Ndeje and Vine and Friends International. And he looked at all these different schools, and I think at the end of the day, he decided for the time being to homeschool her. And so she, along with my other sister, Grace, I have 3 sisters and 1 brother. She, along with Grace, started homeschooling using the ACE curriculum. After about a year, the Lord spoke to him and told him to start up Shekinah, which would be the school where they would join, but then others would also come in to learn together. And so Shekinah began in 2017, and that was the time when I was ideally supposed to go to S5. When I came home for VAC, I was thinking, okay, so there's this new school, and I looked through what they were doing, and I thought it was interesting. But I knew that if I were to join this school, it would push me back a lot. I would not. I had been told that I could not simply join and go for the advanced level before getting the ACE general level certificate. And so I realized that if I were to join the school, it would take some time for me to finish, and I would most probably join university after my friends had joined. And so I had to think about it, and I prayed about it. And I felt the Lord leading me to join Shekinah and to start using the ACE curriculum. So I did. Even before my S4 results were out, I started doing my gap paces. And so I was really, really just involved. At that time, because I had these years in mind, I was thinking, let me just do this quickly and get done with it. I was basically just looking at the years that I had to spend in school. And so I was just looking at that, and I was just thinking, I have this number of paces to do. I want to do grade 8 in like 2 terms. So I'm going to have to do this number of paces this week, and it was a marathon for me. But over the years, I think God helped me to look more at the mastery that Auntie Joyce has been talking about. He helped me to look more at what I was gaining beyond the pace work, and to grab hold of that and to run with it. It has been exciting. I am at UCU now, pursuing a Bachelor's of Arts with Education, majoring in art in English and Literature, and I'm excited. I'm doing this particular course because of what the Lord showed me while I was at Shekinah. And I'm going to talk about that a little more later on. But as Auntie Joyce has been saying, laying tracks, that's important for every one of us. I realize that our lives are not our own, and for me, the way my life has played out just is a clear picture of the fact that our lives are not our own. And we need to know that. We need to know that we are living not for ourselves, but for the people that come after us, for the people that we live with even today. And we need to live our lives looking at that, looking at how we can help them, not from a selfish point of view of, yes, I'm going to do this for you, but what will I gain in return? Or things like that. We need to simply know that the lives that we have are not our own. They are firstly the Lord's, and then they belong also to the people around us. And that is important for us to know. So even as you come into this curriculum, or you have been here for a while, we need to keep looking back at that and knowing that as this child goes through this curriculum, I have a huge role to play, be it in their homework